All right, let me adjust my camera there. I think we're good to go. Hey everybody, Greg Pruitt here with the Idaho Dispatch, and this is the recap, episode number 6, where we kind of go back and discuss some of the more recent articles and try to cover some of the ones that we think, that have been covered over about the last week or so. Just kind of depends on when I get to it, and we try to maybe go in depth on articles that have gotten a little bit more interest from you guys. And I apologize, I'm still trying to kind of pull up a couple things as we get started here. So before we do, this episode is brought to you by CUNA Healthcare. Clayling Harrington. Sorry about that. Over at CUNA Healthcare is fantastic, and so let me just read you a little brief on from their website. Excuse me, Jody Harrington. At CUNA Healthcare, we understand how important it is to have a primary care provider that is compassionate and understanding. Through years of experience and a passion for total patient care, CUNA Healthcare is here to ensure that all your health-related needs are met with a personal touch. We provide a local and caring answer to your healthcare needs. So be sure to, if you live in the CUNA area, to check out CUNA Healthcare, who is one of our sponsors, and we are grateful to have their support. If you are somebody that wants to advertise, shoot an email to info@idahoddispatch.com, and we'll kind of give you some details. And then also be sure for you guys on your end, we would love to have your support as monthly contributors, or you can just do a one-time donation if you want to help out and kind of get the ball rolling on everything over here at the Dispatch, and to kind of keep stuff going. It's a lot of work, and we're up late. We just did a huge article, at least for us, it was a huge article on kind of an investigative report that we had done. And so with that, I'm trying to pull up one more story here that we want to cover. Give me just a second. Let's see, where did it go? There we go. Okay. So with that, I'm going to kind of start from our most recent article and work backwards. There is an article that we just released literally like an hour ago about a West Ada school board member. So for those that don't know, West Ada is the largest school district in the state of Idaho, here in the Boise area, obviously. And it's kind of a part 3, I guess, of a series of articles that we have been doing regarding the West Ada school board. And this one was kind of interesting. So we ended up doing a public records request and asking for information about a company called Red Sky and their communication with the West Ada School Board. So Red Sky, I believe, has a contract with Idaho School Board of Education. And last year, as schools were trying to come back in and parents were trying to figure out if their kids were getting ready to go back to school, the West Ada School Board kind of ended up in a situation where they had a lot of, by their own admission, because in my opinion, their own admission, they had some communication issues with the public, and they were trying to get it all figured out. And eventually, in the fall, they reached out to a company called Red Sky through the West Ada School District and said, "Can you help us out? Okay, can you help us out with our communication?" So sometime back in October, I believe, at least the earliest that we can see, they had mentioned that this company, Red Sky. Well, back in February, so last month, on February 9th, Ed Klopfenstein, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing his name correctly, Ed Klopfenstein had, at the school board meeting, said, "I have a fiduciary interest in this company, Red Sky." And we kind of thought for a second, because we knew that this company had also been hired by the school board. And to our knowledge, we didn't see anywhere where Mr. Klopfenstein had disclosed that he had a fiduciary interest prior to February 9th. And so we thought, okay, let's just do a records request from August of last year until February 28th on any communication between Red Sky and the West Ada School Board. And we ended up with like 760 pages, and I thought, well, this is kind of crazy. Why we have this many pages of documentation. But what had happened was a lot of the emails that parents had sent to the school board were forwarded to Red Sky, tons and tons of them, and that's what a lot of it was. But kind of buried in there, I believe on page 430 of this records request that we did, this school board member had several communications with Red Sky, okay? And he also disclosed to the school board chairman, Amy Johnson, the school superintendent, and the school clerk, in an email, he said, hey, there's a citizen who's asking me about my dealings with Red Sky, and I'm not going to answer that citizen. And then he said, here, let me just go down so I can quote it directly in his email. Let's see, but want you to know that my contract was to act as an IT consultant on a project with a national agency. It's a very small contract. I've been working with Red Sky well before my time on the board. So Ed was elected to the board on, and I'll probably just call him Ed. That's his first name. It'll just be easier for them well before then. And so he says, I do not believe there is a conflict of interest that should be a concern for the board, but will continue to abstain from anything that might involve Red Sky. So this email that he sent to them is the same night that he disclosed at the public school board meeting that there was an interest. Please let me know if you have a concern or need to approach legal. I assumed this would be an issue and just wanted you to be aware. So we don't know exactly what that. We've reached out to Ed, and he hasn't responded to our request. We reached out to Red Sky. They haven't responded to our request, and we also reached out to the communications director for the West Ada School District, and they have also not responded to our request. And so typically in Idaho law, and again, we're not trying to make a claim against Ed that he violated the law or anything like that, but typically in Idaho law, and in most states, there is a conflict of interest disclosure that you're supposed to do if there is a potential conflict of interest. And so usually what you'll see, like for instance, lawmakers, if a lawmaker is about to vote on something that they may have a conflict of interest with, then they'll declare in the House, for instance, Rule 80. They'll say, I'm declaring Rule 80, which means I have a potential conflict. I'm about to vote on this. I have a potential conflict, but I just want to make that publicly aware. Okay? And so on February 9th, Ed discloses that he has a fiduciary interest, okay, a financial interest in Red Sky, but doesn't disclose what it was. Even back then, we tried to ask him what that financial interest was. He wouldn't tell us other than to say, go read my comments during the school board meeting. And so we have a variety of emails that Ed had sent directly to Red Sky as a school board, in his capacity as a school board member. They had sent emails to Ed as his school board member status, and we can't find any emails anywhere where Ed had disclosed prior to February 9th that he had this financial interest in this company, Red Sky. Okay, so on December 31st, an invoice was sent from Red Sky to the West Ada School District for $4,623.75. So a contract was made, money was spent, and I assume at this point money was probably paid prior to February 9th. I don't know. We don't know that part for sure. We're still trying to find out. But from what we can tell, Mr. Ed Klopfenstein has a contract by his own admission since before his time on the school board, which was June 7th, 2016. And then he finally disclosed on February 9th that he had this financial interest in that company, but they had already met with him as a school board member, and money was paid and all this other stuff was done. And to our knowledge, he made no prior admission that it was a potential conflict of interest. And so, people are asking about the relevant portions of the code. There's Idaho Code 33507. It says it shall be unlawful for any trustee to have a pecuniary interest, okay, financial, directly or indirectly in any contract or other transaction pertaining to the maintenance or conduct of the school district. Okay, that's part of the Idaho Code, and then there's a whole other part, 74-404, which has some other information if you guys want to look that up. So anyway, read the article. We've reached out to lawmakers and attorneys and just said, hey, what's the relevant code for, what point is there a conflict of interest in a company? This guy's not an employee of Red Sky, but he has a direct contract with them where he's receiving financial gain from Red Sky. Is that a conflict of interest or not? We don't know. We're just trying to give you guys the information that we found. And a lot of what spurred that is because we had asked him what the financial interest was, and he didn't want to tell us, and so we thought, well, maybe we can just do a public records request and kind of see what is in there. So a lot of you may not care about that story. Obviously, it's kind of a direct impact, maybe in the Boise area at the West Ada School District. But we felt that the whole purpose of media is to kind of watch what the government is doing. It's our goal at the Idaho Dispatch is to give as many facts as we can about a particular story when citizens come to us and say, hey, this doesn't look right, can you look into it? And we do our best to look into it. And so that's kind of what we found so far. I don't know that we'll need to go much farther in finding information for the public based on what we have here, but that information is now out there. Okay. Let's see. The other article that we just released today as well is on Senate Bill 1110, which has to deal with the ballot initiative issue. We've kind of reported on this previously. The bill already moved through the Senate committee, passed the full Senate with, I believe, veto-proof majority. The bill passed a House committee today, and then will go on to the full House. And this bill was voted on 12-2, which is a party line vote in the Idaho House State Affairs Committee. And essentially what it's doing is changing the current requirement is you have to get a certain amount of signatures to get something on the ballot. And that current number of signatures it kind of varies because it goes based on how many people voted in the last general election. And so right now, somewhere probably in the range of 55,000, maybe a little bit more now, but previously it was around 55,000 votes. And out of those 55,000 votes, you had to get at least 6% of registered voters out of 18 districts. Okay, and this bill would change it to all 35 districts would have to you have to get at least 6% out of 35 districts up until you get to that threshold that you need for total amount of votes. And I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, I apologize. And so the proponents of the bill say that it will help protect rural voters from the more urban areas, and the people who oppose the bill today said that it was an attack on citizens' initiative rights, and that it would basically give a veto to one one legislative district. Okay, so we'll kind of keep. And I don't know if you guys have saw it. We're trying to, hopefully once a week, keep you updated on the status of any of the bills that we have written about. And so we do have a number of weekly updates that we're trying to do, or once a week updates that we try to do on the bills that we've covered. And whether they're stuck in a committee, whether they're moving through the committees and the chambers, or whether they've got to the governor's desk, and we're just trying to cover all of that we can. Let's see. Another bill that was introduced, it has not yet had a public hearing, is House Bill 281, which prohibit essentially anyone within the government, okay, so any government agency, the governor, legislatures, district health boards, school districts, I presume, or at least the boards of those school districts, from implementing any kind of face covering mandates. And that was introduced by Representative Carrie Hanks from St. Anthony. And again, that bill has not yet had a public hearing. Another bill that we posted, House Bill 249 by Representative Barbara Ehart from Idaho Falls. This one had a little bit of confusion, it looked like, in the comments, and so hopefully we can clear up some of that confusion. And be sure to, for those who are watching, let us know where you guys are watching from here in the state of Idaho. We like to kind of see which parts of the state most people are tuning in from. The bill deals with sex education, and so from what the sponsor said, Representative Ehart said, there would be two classifications of sexual education. One would deal with anatomy and physiology, and the other one would deal with stuff like sexual orientation and sexual intercourse and stuff like that, okay? And so there'd be two different categories. And the first category that just deals with anatomy and physiology, students would already take part in that, okay? If it deals with sexuality and sexual orientation and all that kind of stuff, then it would be an opt-in, okay? And parents would have to opt their kids into that type of education, where currently, from our understanding, is that it's right now all of it is where your kids would have to opt out of doing that type of education. So that's kind of, some of the proponents of this bill say that they want to keep Idaho's more conservative values on sexual education and leave that to the parents. And then people who are against the bill say that too many parents are going to lose the permission slips or anything like that to opt their kids into the other category of sexual education, and that the kids are going to talk about it anyway, and so why not let the teacher, an adult, take part in that conversation in a classroom. Okay, so those are kind of the arguments for and against House Bill 249. Okay, and then finally, this has a House Bill number now, so we'll probably go and update the article. But Representative Christy Zito has introduced House Bill 300, which is called the Idaho Small Arms Protection Act, and that deals with a number of firearm-related issues. It was introduced by, Idaho Second Alliance Attorney Alexandria Kincaid, and as everybody knows, again, full disclosure, I am still very much a part of the Idaho Second Alliance, and so during the time of the hearing, there was no opposition to it. It was just an introductory hearing, which means there's no public comment, and no public hearing has yet been scheduled for that bill, and the bill did just come out here recently so that it's all publicly available. So we'll go back, update that article, take out the RS number, which is the routing slip number, and post the actual bill number. And if a public hearing takes place for that, we'll write another article, talking about people who are in favor of or against HB 300. So that's kind of the bills the more recent bills that we have covered. If you guys have any questions, I didn't see any questions in the comments, be sure to let us know. Be sure to share this video. Again, we'd love to have you guys as monthly subscribers if you're not already. We're just trying to give you, to the best we can, unbiased news and news where we reach out or cover at least what both sides of an issue are saying. And I do everything I can to leave out my own personal bias. That's always been our goal here at the Idaho Dispatch. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and we will do our best to answer those. Again, idahodispatch.com/subscribe to become a monthly supporter of Idaho Dispatch for as little as $2.97 a month, or you can do $6.97 or $9.97, and we're trying to come up with some additional things for those who are doing the higher echelon of subscribership. So, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to do a lot more as well. So thank you guys. Take care.